All right, guys, here we are again for episode 16 of everyone in the Muay Thai community's new favorite live stream. Cruise Corner.
Cruise Corner. We
What
are
up?
back
What
again,
up?
and we are back with a vengeance. This is a topic that I actually did not realize how split the community was about this particular topic. And it's about semi-contact bouts. And there's a lot of different versions of this all throughout the United States. I think I started one of the first ones with Patrick. We all started it in San Francisco, and it came out. It became a really great thing to kind of was more of the idea was to develop. And it's actually called Muay Thai Development League, and to develop and it kind of blossomed. And it's all over the U.S. There's PKBs, which is point kickboxing. There is, I believe it's called PMTs. The IKF has produced, and it is Point Muay Thai, PMT, I think it's called. And these are basically semi-contact bouts, which is not full contact bouts. That the IKF has deemed to not count towards their record, and their argument in that organization is that it shouldn't count. Whereas a lot of other people in other organizations feel like it should. And from the poll that we had today on Instagram, it looks like it's almost split down the middle exactly. And that was quite a bit of votes for it to be split right down the middle. So community has spoken. This is a highly debated topic, and I want to introduce our panel. Johnny Davis and Master Bob Carmel, Pete Peterson. And these are, it is, first of all, let me just say, it is an honor to have every one of you guys in this, in our podcast. These people are the movers and shakers of Muay Thai. And I am going to be the role of the moderator. I'm going to be asking some questions and trying to get people to voice their opinions in a healthy and respectful way. And we can have a discussion about this and why one feels strongly about this particular topic. So we're going to start with how this is going to go. We're going to ask that your answers are kept concise, clear. Hopefully, I might cut you off a little bit and try to keep things going. And the main purpose of this is to decide or to come to a conclusion on whether or not semi-contact bouts should be included in your amateur record. Okay. That's really the main purpose of this debate or discussion. So I'm gonna start with a very simple question, a very simple question. I'm gonna, Mr. Johnny Davis, we're gonna start with you on what exactly is your definition of a bout, of a fight, so to speak. Johnny, you're muted.
I am. I don't know why.
You're unmuted now, Johnny.
I was gonna say.
There we go.
That doesn't count as a response. It doesn't
Okay.
count.
Okay.
You guys might have heard there's a little
I thought he
bit.
was cutting me off before I could get started. I wasn't sure. Hey, thanks for having me on, Thiago, and Mr. Pete, Mr. Bob, and Brandon, and Ryan. Thanks so much, and everyone else who's in the audience. I first need to say, Thiago, we need to get the history right first.
Absolutely.
Right?
Go for it.
You started out with the MDL and all of that, and that's fine.
Yeah.
But IKF, we started this many years ago. We come from the karate background. We did a ton of karate tournaments and all of that back in the day. As some of you might know, that I was a fighter. Had 2 world championships at it and full contact. But when I retired, it seemed like there was a gap between people leaving the gym and getting in the ring. And in fact, on my second fight, I got knocked out cold, right? Because I thought I was ready, but I really wasn't as ready as I thought. And
Okay.
so then after I retired from fighting, at age 25, actually, I thought, there's something missing. So actually, what from that point, I said, hey, let me kind of create this concept. Now, I want to set the record straight. Okay. Because there's been a lot of things that have been out there that are not necessarily the truth. I want to tell you the truth. Okay. I saw Muay Thai and kickboxing in a karate tournament. Okay. It was hosted by Mr. Carlos Navarro.
When was this?
This was like early 90s.
Got it.
Okay. And here's the problem is that a lot of people were trying to do smokers, and not trying, they were doing a ton.
Oh, they were doing it. They were full on doing it.
A ton of smokers at the time.
Sure.
Everybody was doing smokers. So what that tournament decided they were going to do, they were basically doing a smoker inside of the karate tournament. There were no rules, no regulations. People were getting knocked out. They were getting the crap beat out of them. And at the time, I was already involved a little bit with the commission. So when I went to this tournament, I saw that and I was like, whoa, I got to leave. I actually had to leave the tournament because it was just like they were just killing each other. But when I left the tournament, based on my karate background, I mean, I have an extensive karate background. I won the Battle of Atlanta and all the huge tournaments in black belt division. Sure. So I came back and I said, wait a minute, that's something there. That is something there. And so from that, I created Point from the karate, kickboxing, and then later Point Muay Thai and Point boxing. And
Well,
and at the time,
sure, but Point is Point Muay Thai the same as Point kickboxing, and did that start at the same time?
No, didn't start at the same time. Let me explain how that all came about.
Sure.
My background was a two-time world champion as an American high kick fighter. Okay.
Oh no, Mr. Davis. All right. Well, I'm assuming he just froze up for everybody.
No, he's
still good.
He's still talking.
Okay. Go for it. It must have froze up for me. Okay. Sorry about that, Mr. Davis. Go ahead.
That's fine. I was a high kick fighter. Right back what they call, back in the kick of the 80s, PKA. So let me tell you, and again, open disclosure, my very first tournament that we hosted, we advertised it, brought everybody in from all over San Francisco. I remember Koo Sam brought a ton of people there, and they were mostly Muay Thai. And at the time, I was even trying to referee, right? And I was breaking those guys up so fast, it wasn't even funny because why? I didn't understand the clinch.
Sure.
Didn't understand knees and sweeps. So it was a major learning curve for me to learn about Muay Thai. But you know what? I humbled myself. I got beat up a little bit for it. Some of the trainers told me, oh, you don't da-da-da. I went and I learned more about Muay Thai. We got to learn to respect the Muay Thai culture, if you will. And then I began to merge it. Then I had the PKB, the PMT, and all in between, unified rules and all of that. Sure. Once I really learned it. And then from that point, by the way, I knocked on a lot of doors. And everybody was telling me, no, it will never work, It's stupid, it's crazy. There's no such thing as semi-contact. Every argument, Thiago, that you've heard in this thread, I've been reading some of them, but frankly, I've been wide open.
It's pretty expensive.
But, every argument that you've heard there, I've heard it all before. And probably most of the things that they're going to probably say today, who might be opposed to it, I probably have already heard and addressed it. But that's okay. So I think, though, from that point, obviously people started coming back, the Kusams and other people. Now he's a PKB promoter, a PMT promoter, people like that who were totally against it. They came back and actually said, hey, first of all, Johnny, wow, you really learned how to referee this stuff. You learned something about it. Thank you. Right. And then now that's been right at 27 or so years ago, if not more.
Yeah.
That's a long time. And also since that time, I don't know if anyone sees me training or whatever. I think I know a little bit about kicking and punching elbows and knees, right? And so from that time, though, educating myself, educating everyone, the people, to understand the culture. So some people just have a simple problem still with the idea that there's no such thing
Well,
as semi-contact Muay Thai. So that's part of the issue there.
Let's stay on track here, because
Yes.
I don't
Yes.
have a problem with
Yes.
semi-contact, and I don't think anybody else does. I think the main problem is basically counting them on your record. And so and that's why I posed that question, is how do you, Mr. Johnny Davis, define a bout versus defining? So basically, what is your definition of a sanctioned bout? What are the elements that make it a sanctioned bout for you?
Easy. Intent.
Intent.
Yes.
That's it.
That's it. And you
Nothing
know,
else.
well, there's a lot more, because intent, it means you're trying to knock someone out, right?
Well,
That means
let's
you're
explore
trying.
that. The recipe for a bout. What is, because the state, let's say, we because the intent is a very vague and open to interpretation. So we want to go down and go, okay, what are the elements? What are the hard, tangible things that need to be present for a bout to be recognized by the state or by the city or by the country?
Okay.
What would be your answer to that?
If you are trying, the reason why we have a no knockout rule, right, is because that once you are trying to knock someone out, you are trying to injure them. You're trying to hurt them. So that's intent. And once you take the intent, and it becomes a sparring match. But again, remember now, there's a point karate background here that understands point. A lot of guys have never understood point and what that means. It's just because they've never done point karate. Remember, the idea derived from the point karate concept, where you could take a back fist and you could hit someone and touch them, not try to kill them, and it was a point for that. So now you have a jab, a cross, an uppercut, a hook, a teep, round kicks, back kicks, and all of those other things that when they land in a certain place that we call a point area, that is considered a point. And that's where the term point Muay Thai comes from.
Okay, so I still haven't really gotten to the answer on the elements of a bout, but I saw Pete kind of chuck a little bit. I'm gonna give him the floor when you were talking about the intent and no knocking out. So, Pete, I'm gonna give you the floor. Do you have anything to say about that or a response?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Intent is, so first of all, in my opinion, the intent is already established when you have an incentive to win. When you establish a win-loss, regardless of the level of contact, and semi-contact is subjective to the weight and age of the fighter, what the organization will allow and or disallow. And when you're winning or are incentivized to win, that intent, while it may not be to knock somebody out, is intensified. And I've seen a lot of IKF PMTs where they are doing literal semi-contact, and they are controlled and they look sharp. And then we've all seen some where knockouts actually happen. And I realize these athletes are then, reprimanded, they're DQ'd or what the protocol demands, but that's after the fact. I don't know if I can load or not. Do you mind if I show a video here that shows intent?
Absolutely.
Let me see if I can present. Give me a second here. I will. I hope I can pull this up. Nope, that's not it. Hold on, I got it. Can you all see this right here?
When you have to share it, and then Brandon can bring it up.
Let me mute it. I'm not even sure how.
The present. There's a
right here. You can see the girl in the red shirt. Either one. That is not semi-contact. That is intent to knock the other girl out with head hunting.
Can you share that link?
On the entire 3 bouts.
It was it the girl in
this right now.
Yeah, if you could share that link with us in the private chat, I could
Could you guys see that?
I cannot see that.
We cannot. There's a present
Are you able
button.
to share it, Tiago?
I will share it. Brandon?
It's the one with the two girls competing. Sorry, I thought I could share that properly.
All right, let me share it real quick. I believe you sent me these links, so let me just share it real quick.
Okay.
Was it Thomas King?
Thank you. Sorry about that. Thought I was smarter.
Okay,
Go for it, B.
Technology.
This one.
Okay, this one right here, yes. As you watch this, while the intent may be semi-contact, that is not what's happening, and the referee is not controlling the action. There's these two girls, especially the one in the red, she's going to knock that head clear off that girl. There is no intent to slow down, no control by the referee. This goes on all 3 rounds, and there are many fights like this. He separates them, but no reference to the girl in the red or either one of them to lighten their power up. If that is semi-contact, Mr. Davis, then I've been misled my whole life.
Okay. Do I get to respond, Tiago?
Yeah, absolutely. Go for it.
Okay, so we do tens of thousands of matches a year.
Yep.
If we want to sit here and show videos of the 99% of the matches that are in control, I mean, we can do that. If we want to pick a couple of bad matches and show them to try to prove your point, that's a whole nother area there, okay? So we're not going to do what you just did, Pete. That makes no sense because
why not?
There are matches that are sometimes not the best matches, not the best examples, because you can also go pull video where people have gotten knocked out. You could do that. I could do that as well, but let me tell you, the rule is still no knockouts. These are novice people. The goal at the end of the day is to make sure that we protect these fighters. Sometimes they come in, they're not controlled, they're haymaking and all of that, which is totally against our rules. Whether the referee at that time jumped in and did exactly what he's supposed to do, probably not, but a lot of our referees do. So again, we're not going to just point at different little scenarios. We're talking about the concept as a whole, right? Because the concept as a whole has been very successful. We've had probably about 15, listen to this number, about 15 knockouts out of tens of thousands of matches that we've done over the 20-some years that we've been doing this. So you can't say that we don't have a system that works, because it does. And we've incubated hundreds of fighters that have progressed themselves into professional fighting. So let's not go there, because I think that we should stay on task to try to answer the question of whether or not these should be counted. Because that there was just an example of a brawl of 2 kids. And I've had them. I've been right in the middle of them. They happen. But the idea of it is that no one got hurt. They didn't knock each other. I'm sure they got admonished at the very end. Look, guys, if you're going to do this, as I know I do, if you're going to do this, you're going to have to learn to control your technique, because haymakers are not allowed, but they do happen.
Understood. Master Bob, wanted to bring you in, and, do you have a response to that?
Yeah, well, there's a bunch of stuff I'd like to say about all this. So, Johnny, good to see you.
Good to see you.
So, when the PKBs first came out, and let's remember, I'm 3 people. I'm Master Bob, the Muay Thai fan. I'm the business owner, and then I'm the sanctioning body representing the state of Arizona. When the PKBs first came out, I got to tell you, Johnny, I thought it was the worst goddamn thing I ever heard of. And doing point Muay Thai for me is like putting pineapple on pizza. Some people like it, but I just think it's a sin. But then I sat back and I thought about it as a business guy. Okay, so let's go back in history a little bit, which I always do because I'm old. So
I think I'm older.
Yeah, I'll give it to you. But the IKF back a long time ago, 70s, 80s, were doing huge point karate tournaments. Okay, they were huge, and they were very successful.
You mean the point kickboxing, the point karate?
Yeah, no, the June Reed gloves point tournaments.
Not
Right.
IKF now. Not IKF.
Some of them may have been IKF. They were doing them all over.
No, we
the
didn't. No, let me be clear. IKF has never done karate tournaments.
Right. Well, they were going on. So I think Johnny took that format and put it to modern kickboxing and modern Muay Thai. At the same time, it does create a lesser atmosphere than climbing up into a ring in front of 400 screaming crazy people. So it's an easy way for regular students. I mean, I got 60 guys in here right now. Only 10 of them really fight. The rest of them might try a
Right.
lesser tournament and have that experience and get that experience where, you know, if they make a mistake, they're not going to get killed. Okay. And it's a kind of a good way to get experience. And Johnny was successful with these. So other people started doing them also. Okay. So we all know there's other people doing some sort of softer form of tournament type stuff. And because of Johnny's format in the way of creating a way to gain experience, other people are doing it too. Okay. And he's been quite successful with it because they're East Coast, West Coast. He's all over the place. He's done a great job with it. Okay. On the second hand, by creating this atmosphere, all these guys are getting experience. And at the same time, the IKF is able to control all the fighters in California who are participating in these. And when I say they're in control of them, so if you don't count the PKBs, and a guy has 2 Muay Thai fights and 5 PKBs, and he gets matched in California, they're only matching him by the 2 Muay Thai fights, not the PKBs. So that guy should actually be 7 fights, but we're only showing 2 fights now. Am I correct, Johnny?
Well, you're partially correct. Thank you for the comments, first of all. But I do want to say that one of the things that we developed, since I've been, head of IKF with Tony Fossum, Steve Widow, rest in peace, Steve. One of the things that we created was the IKF Fight Platform. So the IKF Fight Platform now has the full records, if it's given, of all of the fighters passed. So that means you have full contact and you have point sparring. The PKBs go into the point sparring. What we don't want to do is compare equals here to say that a semi-contact point sparring match is equivalent to a full contact fight. It's not. And there's no way you can do that. Yeah, like some of those matches, like you saw with the little girls, you could almost say, well, it's getting pretty close. Well, it is. It is getting close. But ultimately, you cannot, they're apples and oranges.
So those two little girls, when they go to Tiago's tournament and they put down, I got no experience, and they obviously now have experience.
Yes, and Bob,
they pay you to go to a PKB to gain experience.
Right, and they should put.
And that's what we're matching people on is experience.
And you should.
You not counting that experience and telling gyms and fighters that they don't have to count that, you have created the worst goddamn problem in the United States with Muay Thai and kickboxing.
There too.
Because now every fighter who comes out of California, you have to double check their record to make sure that they're showing their complete record. If you go to California to fight, you don't know if you're being shown the full record of that guy.
Okay.
When we go to an IKF tournament in Las Vegas next month, will those fighters be showing their PKBs with people who don't have PKBs? You have to show that stuff. I don't know how you can sleep at night matching people and telling them that they don't have to show their PKBs.
Have you been on the fight platform yet?
Which platform?
The IKF fight platform.
All right. So if you're showing all their fights, then you're counting them.
Okay, yes, but they're counted in categories, right? Again, you cannot match.
Look,
You
it's a
cannot
fight game.
compare a semi-con. Hold on 1 second, Bob, please, sir. You cannot compare a
Jesus.
semi-contact to a full contact match. You just can't do it. The atmosphere is different. Everything
A
is
true
different.
semi-contact match. I agree with you 100%.
Well, you can't. You just can't compare. And I mean, and ideally, like I said, sometimes they might be a little harder. They might get up to 90%, right? But the bottom
Absolutely
line is
not. That's countable.
well, you cannot compare the two. So the bottom line is this, is that if the record is showing that they have, hey, it's not a record, by the way. And I noticed a Pete you guys have on, like I saw a couple of the fighters 10-2. Well, it's not a record. It is a how many. It's more of I've had 15 semi-contact matches. Now, that should tell you that they're going to be probably better than a kid that has 1 or 2 or 3 full contact matches.
Well,
it is. But you're going to have to come up with the algorithm to figure that out.
But you're
let me
telling
jump
them
in here,
they
guys,
don't
please.
have to tell us. You're telling them they don't have to tell us about those 15 fights.
That's not true. What
Listen.
you just said is not true,
You
sir.
tell those two guys in the gym, hey, you're doing this PKB, but it doesn't count on your record. When they come out of state, they don't show it.
No,
And
sir.
you've created a dangerous situation.
What you're saying is not the truth. Okay, so we want to stick with the truth. If that
I'm
was
going to give you the truth in a minute, politely,
okay,
obviously.
if that were the truth, you could not go on the platform and see all of the people's records who are putting them. Listen, the trainer and the fighter has a responsibility to be upfront about whatever experience their fighter has. Now, you can't put all that on IKF PKB, right? If they don't put it, then they're sandbagging. But there is a category on our platform for all of our fighters to put their points for, and we want to listen. There's no one more concerned about safety than I am. You guys might think you are, but I am always concerned about safety first, because second is too late and all. And so I'm the guy that's pushing that they put all of their experience. So to your point, that's not a correct point. I am not telling people not to put their experience. And I said that it doesn't count as a full contact fight. That is a different statement there. That's totally different.
Okay.
Understood. Pete, would you like to respond?
To a whole bunch of this stuff, yes.
Go ahead.
Let me start with this first so I don't sound like I'm a total complete jerk. I think the IKF PMT and PK platform is a great idea. I think I don't dislike it at all, not one bit. Fighters need to get work. Coaches need to get work. There are a lot of opportunities across the country now, and I know the PKB's PMTs launched a lot of that to begin with. The whole point of this conversation is supposed to be about, do they score? I'm sorry. Do they count? And Johnny kind of had some shots fired there when he said winners punished, the new fight in semi-contact, and not naming acronyms, but saying other organizations. And we all know who we are. Almost everybody but IKF, almost. So do they count? Well, when you guys can have a tournament, I'm not going to toot my own horn, I'm just going to say the facts. When you can have a tournament that has 1,000 fighters 4 years in a row, and you've got to vet fighters because, Johnny, yes, the responsibility is on the coach and the fighter, but we all here know that doesn't always happen. Sandbagging is a problem. It's cowardly. I hate it, but it's a problem. And then we have parents registering fighters who don't know how to register fighters. They don't understand that. Coaches don't take responsibility. They pawn off on the parents. Let me tell you something. When you have all these different platforms of how to get experience in Canada and here in the United States, all kinds of platforms, they're great to get experience. But when you have to try to see these fighters, vet these fighters for not true novice, intermediate, and advanced or elites, you have to go by win-loss. There is no other way. Even though, as you say, Johnny, that maybe 15 of the tens of thousands, I'm not going to disagree with you. It's a small percentage. It's more than 15, but it's a very, very small percentage.
No, it's not.
I'm not done. I've seen video and talked to more than 15.
I don't care. I keep up with them. Everything comes to me.
Okay, that's fine. But my point is when you consider 2-year-old girls, well, that's an extreme. I agree. That was one that got carried away. But we can't go through all these fighters and say, well, yours didn't get carried away, but yours did. So I have to put you in this division, you in that division. That's not going to happen. The easiest way for us to deal with 1,000 fighters giving us records is win-loss. Win-loss. That's it, period. And the problem I have, again, I think the format you have is a great format. I only disagree with what you're saying about it not counting because of what I've seen and win-loss. Now, Canada has the same kind of formats where they only fight one round and it's shorter. And they're complaining it's not a real fight because it's only one round and it's semi-contact, but they do a winner-loser. When you look at our tournament, over 600-plus fights, only 35 went to knockout. Only 90 were total that knockout and TKO combined. And many of those, of course, obviously were first-rounders, so you can't even judge any of that. The only method, true method, and fair method is a win or a loss. When you have some of the statements online and comparisons are, or I guess complaints or concerns are, well, when you have a person with 0 amateur fights, like sanctioned amateur fights, against a 10 to 15 PMT or PKB fighter, that PMT PKB fighter is going to win. He has more experience, more time in the ring working that. He's going to win. He has the advantage. Well, he has advantage, okay? But conversely, if you take a 10 to 15 fight PMT PKB guy and put him in A class where his record states, he's going to get his ass whooped. It's just, it's a conundrum you've created with this that, to me, respectfully, is a disservice to the Muay Thai community. You've created a community within the community, and it's a great platform. It's a success. But what you're saying should and should not count is the problem. And in Muay Thai, it's not going to fly.
You have a response, Johnny?
Yeah, of course.
Of course.
Of course I do.
Let's get it.
Again, when I was, a karate fighter, right, we were kicking each other in the face, punching each other. And back in the day, we were knocking each other out, right? I've had hundreds of those. I was a weekend warrior. If they would have counted those matches, by the time I got into pro, I would have probably been 100 wins with probably 10 losses, right? It makes no sense to count semi.
We don't count karate.
Let me be clear. Let's make sure we understood that we're counting as a real fight and counting as experience. Let's make sure that we're on the same page. They should count as experience.
Yeah.
Now that is up to the trainer. Again, why we have it listed on the platform for people to put how many of these you have had. The danger in what you're saying, Pete, respectfully.
Yeah.
You want to put a guy that had 15 PMTs or PKBs into a C or a B class. I would say C class for sure, but B
Absolutely
or A
not.
class.
Absolutely not.
Where would you put him? In novice?
If there are 15 fights?
15 sparring matches.
No,
Where would you
no, not sparring matches. 15. No. Oh, let me say this really quick here. Sorry, not to cut you off. I've seen fights where we just went to a PKB, right? A PMT in Kansas City. And this was total 180 opposite. Chad Mueller was so concerned about safety. He was on point, almost too much so. I have a video of that too. I won't show right now. I'm counting my kids' fights there because that's what we do. But it was like way soft, way controlled, way like I mean.
Wow, I wonder who in the world trained Chad.
I'm not about tooting horns, Johnny. I'm about the point we're making here. I don't care how many fights you had, how many fights I had. Doesn't matter.
You're talking to the person who spread this across all of his officials and representatives. That message in Chad
that has in charge, that has refereed inside Lumpini Stadium, has the largest tournament almost in the whole world on numbers of fighters. Yeah. So don't give me your background.
No. What I'm trying to say, but Pete, what I'm trying to say to you, it's not irrelevant, none of it. But what I'm trying to say to you
Sorry, I'm getting
That-
elevated. Sorry.
That's fine. The same measure and the same lessons that I taught Chad, I teach across to everybody. So the concept is there. Whether or not every now and then people get a little hard and get a little out of control, that's all a part of fighting. That's all a part of sparring. It happens, I'm sure, in your MDLs and the other tournaments that you guys are doing.
You're right. Yeah.
It does. You can't control every aspect of fighting.
Johnny, let me pose a question for you.
Please.
Now you're saying, because I'm just listening,
Sure.
and I'm gonna regurgitate a little bit of what you said. I'm gonna subtext it, but you're saying that, and I heard this. If somebody has, and then when Pete was talking about, experience, and somebody has, no fights, sanctioned PKB, nothing. They have 0.0 experience in competition. And they compete against an athlete who has participated, let's say just conservatively, 5 PMTs, right? 5. Would you agree that 5 PMTs would give him an advantage?
1,000%. Let me
And so
let me just say this.
Let me pose my question first. Let me pose my
Okay, I
question.
thought that
I'll
was
give
the
you
question.
time to respond. Would you say that would be? Would you? And I'm just trying to find a middle ground here where we can kind of come together on something. Would you say that would be if you're going to count that? Because this is the problem with tournaments and Muay Thai, is that there needs to be one metric, and you created a second one. This is what I'm hearing from
No, there
Bob,
was no
from
metric
Pete.
for semi-contact.
But there's a metric for experience, and here's the issue that I've kind of experienced on a personal level is that there needs to be one metric, and for a sanctioning body, Pete is part of a sanctioning body, Bob is part of a sanctioning body. Their sole purpose is fairness and safety, correct? I would say, right, Pete? Bob?
Yes, sir.
Fairness and safety is their number one job. So when they're looking at these PMTs, their job is to see if the bout is fair and safe. And what happens is, if somebody has, and I've seen this, 30 PMTs, PKBs, whatever it is, and they come into a sanctioned event and they want to compete in a sanctioned event, they're almost, they're kind of stuck with PMTs. They can't really go anywhere else. So you see the problem it poses for an athlete that does PMTs and for an athlete that doesn't. And so the common ground here is, would you consider a semi-contact, let's say a semi-experience, for example, 2-to-1, right? If somebody has 2 PMTs, that's equal to 1 sanctioned bout. Would that be something that you would advise on or tell the people?
Okay.
So that's the question.
First of all, IKF is about safety as well. Right? You mentioned the others, but we are about safety. The whole
Safety and fairness.
Yes, safety and fairness. That's the way the thing was derived. It's about fairness and safety. When it comes to how you want to create an algorithm, that's up to an organization about how they want to count a semi-contact bout. Some of those bouts don't even go 1 minute. They barely even finish. People get stopped or whatever, and you're going to count them as a match. Good luck with that. That is a liability that you were talking about. So whatever algorithm that a group wants to come up with to try to count the semi-contact, that's up to them. And if Pete and those are saying that, hey, we're going to count them 1 for 1, if it's semi against full, then that's on them to do that as an organization. I have a strategy that I told fighters what they need to do. I said, do not go to that tournament until you are ready to fight in C class, B class, or A class. That's the way. That is the way to do it. And we talked about this, Pete. We had this conversation about this many years ago, and I said that, and I hold to that. And fighters, when they go there, be ready.
Yeah.
That's all. If they're gonna, if you feel like you're not ready to fight and see you're up, then don't go. Because if they're gonna count your semi-contact PKBs, PMTs as a real match and put you in a category that you're not ready for, I think it's a huge liability for the organization, to be honest with you. I really do, because it's almost making someone fight in a division that they are just not skillfully.
I mean, nobody's making anybody fight anywhere.
Well, if they come there, so what happens, Thiago, if I go to the event and you ask me the question, Pete, you can answer this question for me. If I go to your event and you ask me the question, how many matches have I had in semi-contact, and I tell you 15, what division are you going to put me in?
A class.
I'm going to ask you first if they were win or loss. And if you say no, I'm not counting those. If you say yes, then I'm counting those.
Well, okay. Yeah, there was a winner and a loser, and I won 10 of them.
Okay.
What if there's
no? I want to be clear. Be clear, Pete. Where are you going to put me?
What'd you say there was? How many total?
I won 10. I lost 5.
That's A class.
You are set, sir. I'm going to give you a stern piece of advice. You are setting yourself. That's why we are well insured in our organization.
All right.
You are setting yourself up for a serious lawsuit.
No.
The reason why I say this is because I know for a fact that 15 semi-contact matches are no way ready for someone with 15 full contact matches. They're going to get smashed. And that's going to be on you. When a good attorney gets a hold of that, he's going to flip that on your organization. I'm trying to give you a fair warning right now. It won't be us, but I'm trying to give you a fair warning. That is a serious liability, sir.
Let's reverse that
Gentlemen,
a little bit.
if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, Pete, you said something earlier in the conversation that was actually
Don't let me forget to come back to that, though, okay, Ryan?
You said the incentive to win is more important than the no knockout rule. What creates an incentive to win, in your opinion, in a bout that is modified contact?
The medal, the title belt. They've created a system where they have the same awards as sanctioned tournaments. And these guys want those. They're proud of those, which they should be because they won. But that's absolutely fine. But when you have intent to win, you automatically up the ante, whether they're going faster or more intense. Even though trying to control their power some still, they still are trying to win because everybody wants to win.
Yeah. Yeah. Let
me come back to that person, though, Johnny. I'm sorry, Ryan, because you said that's a lawsuit waiting to happen. Let me reverse that just really quick here. If I allow a 15 to 20 or just say 10 to 15 PMT fighter, the same scenario, 110 lost 5, don't count those because they're semi-contact. Put them in novice class because they have nothing else on their record, and they whoop ass on that other fighter. That fighter is the same lawsuit because I've let that fighter come into this division with all that experience.
Right, but here's the problem. This is what you're missing, Pete.
The whole thing's the problem.
No, Pete. What you're missing is the trainer integrity.
No, I'm not missing that.
No. Let me be very clear. That if a trainer.
So are you saying that the trainer is open to a lawsuit?
No, they could be.
Well, then under that logic,
that's different.
Under that logic, if you're the organization who trains these officials, and they go off and do their own thing, or they go against policy, right? Because you're saying that there's a small percentage that they're just not following the spirit of it. And I understand, the purpose. You're very clear, the purpose of the program, and the intent, and the spirit. However, like in anything we do, we have to continually evaluate how the program actually functions in reality, right? Once it gets into the hands of people and not just on paper. And the fact that this topic is officially, I would say it's pretty juicy. Yeah. It lets us know that discrepancies actually exist, because if they didn't exist, this would be a dead issue. And I'm going to call this, pun intended, the impact study, right, of this type of program. And I think even going back to Pete's questioning of the girls that we saw in the video, who were fighting in what looks like to me full force during what what you're calling a semi-contact bout. Now, if you're saying that the officials there and whoever the organizers of that program have a gross departure for what your purpose and your intent and your spirit was, then wouldn't that be a liability for you vicariously in the fact that they're not following the policy?
Well, I mean, listen, again, you're talking about hundreds of events a year. You're
It
talking
only
about
takes one event to get sued.
Well, hold on. That's right. And that's across the board. That's for any situation. All of us in the business of promotion knows that you can get sued for anything, right?
Sure.
That somebody can break their arm, they can slip, anything, the ring could fall. That's mute. That's mute. Anybody can be liable for that. But my point is that you can't take one scenario like that or a few of them and just throw the whole organization in the trash as a result of a couple of bad actors or people who perhaps didn't follow through as much. That's in full contact. You see that in UFC, you see it in Glory, you see it in ONE FC. Everybody doesn't have the same mindset about maybe safety or whatever the case might be. That is just the way it is. But we have to understand that as long as we are focused on safety first, second is too late, making sure that fighters wear the proper gear. That's another part. Some people don't understand this. They have guys out there in 10-ounce gloves trying to call themselves doing semi-contact. Well, that's stupid, right? The gloves that we wear are there for a reason, right? The size of the gloves. Some of those little kids, to be honest with you, the gloves are so big, I'm more concerned about them dislocating their shoulders, to be honest with you, because it's about safety first. So it might look like it's a lot more intense, but the reason why those kids walked away fine is because of the equipment and things like that we wear, that we check, that they make sure they have their mouthpiece and their headgear and all of that. So it's not a fight. That is the bottom line. It is a sparring match.
So let's go back to the first question. Let's go back to the first question that I posed. What defines, and I'm talking about tangibles. Intent is very open to suggestion. I can decide what intent is, but tangibles.
Intent has degrees, Thiago.
Right. There's degrees, but intent does have degrees. You're right. And that's becomes very difficult. So if I was going to the state commission, I'm going define about, because I know, as a matter of fact, after you answer this question, hopefully I'm going to ask Bob the same question, and I'm going to ask Pete the same question. And I'm going to assume that there's going to be some variety to it, but I would like to hear from you exactly, because you have been with the state, you've represented your commission yourself. How do you present to the state what a bout is? Because you can't just go up to the board and go, hey, it's intent. They're going to go, okay, put it on paper. I don't know what that means. So what would you say to the state that defines a bout? That's not, what are the elements of a bout that you would say?
First of all, what you're going to have to do there, you're going to have to go into the commission and what their job is.
Absolutely.
Athletic Commission's job is to regulate full contact fight sports that are done in a ring or a cage for the most part. Okay. And that's the first part you got to get. Make sure they
have to have a ring or a cage.
A ring or a cage.
An enclosure.
An enclosure.
Okay,
right?
that's the first element.
I will tell you that I sit on certain boards right now that might even be changing.
Okay, that's questionable.
It's a little bit dangerous.
What else?
That's one of the main things.
One of the main ones.
The other part is about intent. That highest degree of
let's forget intent here.
No. You can't forget intent, Thiago, because the intent part is trying to hurt somebody. You are trying to damage. You are trying to damage them. You are trying to hurt them. You're trying to knock them out.
Like that.
That part of intent is where the commission then begins what they have to regulate. And so the difference is the size gloves that the commission allows.
So let me pose this question, because the commission doesn't regulate karate. The commission doesn't regulate, but there's also intent to knock out and hurt in all of those sports. Absolutely. Absolutely.
No, it's not. No. We're not talking about karate combat, Theo.
But
We're
apples
not
to
talking about
apples here.
karate combat. We're talking about karate tournaments that the intent is not to knock the person out. That is absolutely not the truth.
If that were the case, I have about 300 bouts of Taekwondo.
I don't care. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the intent is not. No. Hold on now. Taekwondo.
I'm listening.
You got to be careful what you're saying.
I'm listening.
Taekwondo and Kyokushin. What is it? Kyokushin. Kyokushin is done on the mat, but they can knock each other out. Right. So you gotta know the difference and everything. And to be honest with you, Kyokushin.
That's what I'm asking you. Is exactly what. Go ahead.
Kyokushin should be counted.
Okay.
To be honest with you, and I will tell you, this is the confusion in it where because they can knock a person out with their kicks. They can knock them out. And they win. And they win as a result of it. I had a guy that came to the West Coast Classic. He told me, he was honest. He said, I've never been in the ring. I've never had a full contact fight, but I've had about 25 Kyokushin matches.
Now,
and he came there. Let me just say this. He came there. We didn't have the classes at the time, but he was in the toughest division, one of the toughest divisions in the tournament, and mopped it.
Okay. So now, with that being said, you allowed him to compete in the toughest division with Kyokushin matches that technically didn't count. You would say that's a fair. Well, they did not count, correct? They're in the spirit of the state law, they were not recognized. Is that correct?
But he had the experience, and he was honest about his experience.
Right.
And he said it would be unfair for me. I can't remember. We're
relying on the honesty of the athlete, which
which,
as we all know, not all of them are. And
listen,
we have to create a system, right, where even if you're dishonest, we have the full knowledge and extent of your experience level, so that we can have fair matches and bouts and safe bouts, correct? Because in the eyes of the state, he was allowed to fight in a C-class bout. He was allowed, correct?
No, he fought in. We didn't have classes.
No. Oh, that's right. You don't have classes.
We do. No. Listen, Thiago, calm down. We do have classes. We do have classes. The reason why I'm sorry, I know you're the host, but I don't want you to put words into our mouths here. We have classes. At the time, this was about Thiago. You were at the tournament, the West Coast Classic. You were there.
I've been to many of them.
No. The first one that we did, you were there.
Oh yeah. Oh, way back.
And the guy was at that tournament, and he called me up and he told me, hey, I've had about so many. He said, I don't feel like I should be fighting in novice division just because I haven't had any recorded fights. And he was right.
He regulated himself. Isn't that the job of the commission and the state?
But honesty and integrity is always a big problem in fight sports. And I think everybody here
right. And this is the root of the problem, right? This is the real root of the problem here. Oh, Bob's back. I was gonna actually talk. Bob, do you have anything to add? I don't know if you've heard it, but I was gonna pass it to you, and then you left. What are your thoughts on this? As far as we're at the root of the problem here is that integrity and that honesty and full disclosure and what we make required. What are your thoughts on it, Bob?
So first off, Johnny's kind of correct about intent. When you work with commissions, intent is part of it. Okay. But it's the intent of the sport. Okay. It's not the intent of the individual. So Muay Thai as a sport, the intent of Muay Thai competitors are to knock each other out or to do damage. That's the intent of the sport. Okay. Johnny's attempting to change the sport to say that that's not the intent of the sport. Okay. And this is what's causing a lot of the problem.
Are you saying he's creating a new sport?
Well, he's
The
trying.
scoring system's new. It's different than Muay Thai.
So John, yeah. So point systems are different, but the intent of Muay Thai is to knock your opponent on. That's the intent of the game. That's the game that we're judging. That's the game that we're overseeing.
That's what I prefaced to at the beginning, that people still think that way.
So Johnny's also a smart dude. He's been around. So he's been going to all the ABC conventions and talking to the different commissioners, trying to make more business. You know, you can't hate a guy for making more business. Okay? Don't hate Johnny. I just hate PKBs. All right? I don't hate Johnny. Johnny's smart. Truck.
You don't hate I don't think you hate the PKBs. I think you're a closet lover of the PKBs, to be honest. Anyway, I think he's in the closet. I think he's in the closet. And I think Pete's in the closet too. Hey, I'm going to call it out. I think Pete's in the closet too. Because he's done a couple of the PKBs by his own admission.
But
and as far as I know, his people really enjoyed it. So let me I digress.
But the intent is of the sport, okay? So it's not a point sport. This is a kill sport, okay? That's why we loved it, okay?
No, okay.
When it comes to full exposure, when fighters come to us at a tournament and we asked them for their full records, a few years ago when all this kind of kicked off, we looked at the guy's record. Okay, you're in C class. And then 12 hours later, I'm getting videotapes from people's opponents showing him in these PKB competitions. And they count. And
as
it's
experience.
The intent of the sport. Okay.
They count as
so
experience.
you may tell the guys, oh, you gotta go easy. But the intent of the sport is to knock the other guy out.
What is your
Johnny's events and some of the other softer ones? They're still going to get guys who get knocked out. It's just going to happen. Yeah. Sometimes you put a kick on the head, you just got to touch a guy with a toe and they go down. All right. But the intent of Muay Thai is to knock the guy out.
Bob, what would be your definition of a bout? What are the elements that you
elements of a bout? Okay. You sort of have two things. You have the matchmaking elements, okay, and the criteria of your matchmaking, which is important. And then you have state regulations and whatever the sanctioning bodies, their regulations as far as the ring and the times and where everybody's sitting and the bells and where everything goes. All right. But it starts with the matchmaking. Okay. So it has to be, everything has to be up front. You know, you have to expose everything you've done. And I want to see Sabat. I want to see anything that you've done. Okay. It may not be taken into consideration in the matchmaking, especially in a dual meet, a regular fight, not a tournament, regular fight. All right. But it's still taken into consideration, and it needs to be exposed to the opponent. All right. So when you go, coach, I got a guy for your guy. They're the same weight, they're the same age, about the same height. Well, your guy's got 4 fights. This guy's got 4 fights, but he's got 3 PKBs, 2 Sabat fights, 22 karate non-contact tournaments. Do you want to take that fight? Now, if they decide to take that fight, there's been full exposure. Everybody knows. Okay. The problem is in tournaments, when we don't get that full exposure of people's records, in a dual meet, it's easy to do. And it's easy for us to go check on everybody. But in the tournaments, it makes it very hard. And it's the worst in the C class. Because when guys start becoming B class or A class, they're either in it or not in it. Okay? If you got a guy with, let's say, 10 PKBs, he's also been doing regular fights. He's an active guy. All right? That's
an assumption, yes.
Okay? But it's the C class guys that are the most vulnerable. Okay. And according to my state, you have to declare everything. Okay. You have to show everything.
Pete, what is I'm gonna pass it on to Pete. Thank you, Bob. How would you define a bout?
A bout to me is a bout that pits two opponents together in a certain amount of designated rounds with time links, a referee, and 3 judges, or 5 judges, whatever it dictates to be, that is scoring that bout on a win-loss 10-point must system. That is a bout. The ring, the mat, irrelevant. It is the basic skeleton of the bout. What is required to set a winner? When you have and every different ones are different. Some just go 1 round, some go 2, but they have a designated time.
What's the ultimate goal? What's the ultimate goal?
And that's a bout. When you look at scrimmages, if I can highlight a few things here really quick to compare, you have MDLs, you have NMTAs, you have TBA scrimmages, you have WACO scrimmages even for kickboxing. And you have other offshoots of scrimmages, and you have your PKB CMTs as well, and point boxing now too, right? So you have different scrimmages you have across the country. Many of the others we're talking about, that we're not talking about, that we, TBSA, we count all experience in what we want them to inform us of when they register, right? We want to hear how many MDLs they've had, everything they've had. We want to know as categories there. But we only count to go into the C, B, and A as wins or losses. Whenever you look at, I'll give an MDL for an example. You're looking at fighters that are paired by skill levels. They could be girls against boys. They're not same gender, not same age always, not always the same weight. And they don't have any judges, a referee to control safety and fairness, no judges to score the fight, just to give a report card of sorts that evaluates their levels. That's a true development. So because of this, we don't count those. If they were an actual D-class MDL where they're going to score for a win, we would count those. That was a plan in the original MDLs to have a D-level class, not just E-level, but they haven't accelerated that part yet. If you look at NMTAs, they're the same way. And just in Chicago area, they are going in a ring and the match in the same event, but they are not scoring. They're giving a report card, evaluation card on development. Many times we've had to stop bouts refereeing and actually not give an 8 count like in a regular bout. If they got caught by just as you guys all said, some things do happen sometimes. You can get just barely caught here with a light contact and still drop. We stop them, make sure they're okay. We don't call a time. We don't do an 8 count. It's totally different format than a bout. A bout has, as Bob says, regulations. Your fouls, your 8 counts, your flash knockdown rule, your not say by the bell in a round rule. Those kind of things are part of a bout as well.
Not inside.
I don't know what all the PKBs have for those kind of things. I'm not familiar, and it's not the main part of that. But the main thing is you have 3 judges scoring that fight for a win-loss. To me, that is a bout. In a combat sport, we're not going to count karate or taekwondo or Krav Maga or any of those other things.
Why not, Pete? Why wouldn't you count karate?
You know why I'm not? Because they came to our tournament and tried to give us all that background. And it's not Muay Thai. And they've gotten hurt. When it's Muay Thai, here's the other part of that too, Johnny, is in Muay Thai. This, and I wasn't trying to be disrespectful in saying that you've created a community inside our community. What I mean by that is you've created your own rule set as far as scoring criteria from what Muay Thai is, right? You like the sweeps, or your guys like Hodges like the sweeps, and I get that. In Muay Thai, a lot of those things are fouls, and they don't have scoring effect in the scoring criteria of actual Muay Thai.
What did you say about the sweeps? We do allow sweeps.
I know, and you score them the highest in your scoring criteria, right?
No, we don't.
Yes, you do.
No, we don't.
Your website says you do.
No.
And your official meetings say you do.
So let me be clear.
Okay.
the Point Muay Thai circuit is kind of originated, as all of it did.
You're going to say abstract, not a big long story, right?
Always got a long story, first of all. Right? So don't ask me on a podcast if you don't want a story. I mean, that's just the way it is.
We're here for the story, Johnny.
Right,
We're here for the story.
So the Point Muay Thai, as it started out, you know, and as my guys doing a great job over there, Ryan and Daniel and Raphael doing a great job over there growing it. They have a lot of the core factors, I guess, of Muay Thai when they talk about counting one for the other. And there is a little bit of things that I still have to try to say, no, guys, everything is a point. Everything is a point. Doesn't matter if they sweep, if they land a shot, punch, kick, or whatever, and all, it's a point. So yeah, there's still a little bit. Some places you can go and the sweeps might count more or less. But ideally, I'm just trying to tell you, we have a very huge organization. And I constantly have conference calls and constantly trying to inform people, guys, a point is a point. It all counts the same, right? But listen, what you're saying is not necessarily wrong, because I've heard that before. That some people say, oh, well, the sweep count. And I'm telling them, no. It doesn't, right? It is, everything counts for a point. So that is an area that you can nitpick on that and say, well, that's not totally developed across the organization, but a lot of the things are. And that's what I want people to understand, that the program works. And here's the thing, the proof is not only in the pudding, it's in the eating of the pudding. And we have tens of thousands of people that have eaten this pudding and they love it. So that is where the proof really is. So if people will get knocked out every weekend, if it wasn't developing fighters properly, if it wasn't something to saying I won, as opposed to saying both of you guys won, I don't know if I want to work that hard in the gym if I'm just going to go to a tournament where both of the hands are going to be raised. I'm a fighter. You know, even when I was doing the karate tournament, it was something about raising my hand that meant something. It was something about the announcer, ladies and gentlemen, you know, saying that that person won and mommy and daddy paid money to come and cheering on little Bobby. That part of the aspect is at an amateur level, but eventually that's the same feeling of adrenaline that they're going to need when they get into the full contact arena. What we're doing is preparing these fighters realistically for the ring. And what we have found, and you are correct, once you start doing PMTs and PKBs and even PBSEs, yeah, you're going to be better than that person who hasn't done them, more than likely, right? Because you're more prepared internally and externally. And that was when I put this program together like 20 some years ago, that was the plan. Now let me be clear. I knew this day I knew this day would come where it would be, wait a minute, these guys who are doing this are beating our people. We need to find a way to try to level the playing field. Well, here's what I said many years ago, Pete, and you might remember this in an article. Create your own, right? It's not that hard. You can create your own without beating us up. You can create your own, and as long as the trainer and the fighter is coming there saying, hey, my guys have 15, but listen, they're not ready for no A or B class. I would say those are C class fighters, just if I had to.
Oh, God, no. Don't go there again.
No. I'm telling you right now, those are more like C class fighters. You got to understand, some of those bouts that you're calling bouts or sparring matches, they don't even go the distance. They just stop. Somebody gets tired.
Some fights don't go the distance, Johnny. Some real fights don't go the distance. They go one round. They go 30 seconds.
I understand. But what I would just want to be clear that these are not real fights. The drilling is not. You do get a rush, but it's not the same as. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. When I was fighting at karate tournament, I was just playing almost. I didn't know nowhere near even. When I was like number 2 in the world at one time. I'm not trying to keep throwing out my stuff, but I'm just trying to make a point. I was like number 2 in the world in full contact, and I fought in a semi-contact event. I was playing. And I remember Marty Knight beat me. He outpointed me, he just touched me. And I'm like, wow, but when I got in the ring, I became that beast. I became that mad, like Mike Tyson talks about that beast. and all, and I have that. And all, and that is a different level of thinking when you go in there and you're trying to literally take somebody's head off, trying to break them in half. That's another level. You don't get that way into where you shouldn't get that way in the point fight.
You do when you have a win-loss incentive, period. I'm going to tell you something really quick here. I make it my job to be informed on rules of scoring of various organizations. I spent 2.5 years now training almost 300 officials across this country, and I've trained internationally. I've taught internationally. I've read ikfpmtwest.org more than one time. In that, to go back to the scoring criteria, in that website of your organization, it states in the hierarchy of the scoring criteria, sweeps are number one. Not saying whatever. I'm just saying that's number one, and the lowest scoring is strikes to the head, which incentivizes them not to go to the head, but that they don't do that. So I've seen the same website. I've seen instructional tutorial videos on how the match is scored, and you'll show little exchanges, right? And it'll show 2, 1, 2, 1. So you have a hierarchy of 2 points and 1 point in there, not 1 for like you just said a few minutes ago. Your website I'm not done yet. Hold on, you'll get your chance. You're contradictive many times throughout this whole podcast so far. So in your website, it shows this. I've watched this, and in those criteria for scoring Muay Thai on the planet that is legit, do sweeps score? A kick scores, a sweep does not. And it's nowhere in there. Clinch does not have any score value call. You have changed the whole criteria to make it your own, which is fine. It's absolutely fine. Yeah, it's absolutely fine, but it's not Muay Thai.
Okay, so a sweep does count. Let me be clear. Now,
it's not Muay Thai, sir.
No. Let me explain to you. Let me tell. So. I know you have. I shouldn't even ask you to do seminars, right? To sweep someone, to catch a guy's leg and the sweep is not easy. And in fact, hold on.
Everybody.
Hold on. I'm talking about sweeping the leg.
Yeah, right? With what? Your foot or your leg? Or
with your foot. With your foot.
Okay.
Right, with your foot, right? And so what happens? You catch and you sweep. That's not easy. A guy is not trying to let you sweep him. It should be a point.
It's a foul in Muay Thai and does not score.
No. My point in saying this, it should, because it takes effort and it takes a strategy to get even in on someone to sweep.
Well, we are probably, but here, listen up, guys. We're getting into semantics.
There's a whole bunch of those.
We're getting into semantics and what's Muay Thai and what's not, and I'd like to stay on track about what the real issue here. And this is a bit of a microcosm of what the issue is with our sport in general, right? Is you look at TBA and, the TBAs count only wins and losses. If you go to Arizona, we count everything, right? If you go to IKF, you have to disclose, but they don't count in your record. And this has always been an issue from as long as I was in this sport. I'm sure as long as all you guys are in this sport, when I was a little sperm swimming in my dad's balls.
Let's be clear on
that. And that's something I think we can all agree on, is that there is still a lot of work to be done on rule interpretations. And, this kind of discussion really, and I'm going to say again that how grateful I am for every single person that's on this panel to participate, because these kind of things is what brings us together and try to start the steps to finding a middle ground where we can actually operate in our own way, but collectively. And so what I want to do is I'm going to give the floor to everybody on final thoughts. What your thoughts are, because it's obvious we're not going to come to a conclusion today. This is a problem that's been ongoing for years, right? I'd love to be the person that solves a problem in the Middle East. You know, this is kind of it for our sport. Is it's very, very complicated. There is no one very simple solution. There's a lot of different opinions on how this should go. My opinion will differ from many others' opinion, depending on my experience in the sport, just like Johnny's experience in the sport was different, and Pete's and Bob's and everybody else. And so, you know, we all want the same thing. We want to spread it. We want to develop athletes in our way. But we're going to defer in opinions, and that's, you know, that's natural progression of things. Bob, I'm going to give you the floor to you for final thoughts. Muted. Bob, you're muted.
I got it. You know me and technology, we don't get along so good. So, in final thoughts again, the whole PKB not disclosing their records is horrible. It's caused confusion with California gyms coming from out of state, or coming to Arizona, because that's where I deal with these guys. It's caused an issue. In Arizona, we count everything, and it's just. I work for the state. Basically, I work for the state, and this is in our rule set.
So do you count MDLs, Bob?
Yeah, of course. Count everything. We count everything.
So I thought Pete was saying that they don't count them because they're considered scrimmages.
They don't count them, but not in Arizona.
No, we
count in Arizona. You count MDLs too.
Absolutely.
Okay.
We count everything. So we count everything. And
when you say count, Bob, I'm sorry, Thiago. I'm sorry.
Yes,
Bob, when you say count.
Yes, we count.
Are you saying counting as experience or equal to a full contact match?
We're counting it as experience.
But what about to a full contact match?
It's going to go into your total number of fights. So if you have 10 MDLs in one real fight, you have 11 fights.
Wow, that is so dangerous. Yeah.
So if my message would be to the gyms, the fighters, okay, if you're pounding out the MDLs, I mean the PKBs, because they're every weekend almost, you need to be considered that that's going to be part of your record. And again, this is a great maneuver by the IKF to control California fighters and keep them in California. All right.
Okay.
So if you're a California fighter and you got PKBs, you have to show them when you go out of state. If you're if you're a fighter outside of California and you go to California to fight, or you go to an IKF tournament event, beware. Just beware of who you're fighting and what you're walking into.
Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Pete. Final thoughts.
Yeah, this is something that we're not all going to come to an agreement on. And just like rules vary with different organizations, it's responsibility of the coach and athlete when they go to an organizational event to know what the rule set is, what the scoring criteria is, what's going to count for that organization, what's not going to count. It's their responsibility to know that going into it. So there's no issues at all. If they go into that knowing full well what's up, then that's fine. That's on them, and they're agreeing to that. They concur, and that's cool, because we're at the end of the day, we're not all going to agree or have one Muay Thai. There's not even one Muay Thai in Thailand. Every stadium varies. Every single one varies.
Exactly.
So it's okay that we disagree in that area. It's okay we have our own thing going on, as long as we keep Muay Thai in its context, right? My final thoughts on this topic, though, is to say that organizations are punishing winners for winning is absolutely absurd. We have that safety and fair play at the top of our list. And first and foremost, the preventive measure for that is I am almost obsessed with officials training to make sure that the safety starts with them, with that man in the ring or woman in the ring, to make sure that fight is safe and that fight is fair, and they give the judges something to score. That is first and foremost. Officials are half the fight. So with that said, you know, we're not punishing anybody. We're simply doing our job to make it as fair as it can be. And we have 1,000 fighters to vet, and that's a hell of a task. And we do our best. We're not perfect. I don't think anybody is. People are going to get through, but we do our best. And my final thoughts are, I don't think there's any wrong organization, but I think that for us, it's never going to change. Our best way to do it is count wins and losses. My personal, not directed, my personal opinion is that would be the one thing that would make the IKF platform very, very good, because it's already good. It's already successful. It's already way everywhere out there, is just make an evaluation, not a win or loss. That's my opinion, but that's just me. There's my final thoughts.
Thank you, Pete. Brandon, what are your final thoughts, my friend? He's been very quiet today.
I don't know anything. Who am I? Who's this guy? He's chopped liver over here. No, I just wanted to add, first of all, thank you all for joining this discussion, because it's really very important to everybody in the community. So thank you for that. My thought while we were talking about a lot of this is safety, you know, and obviously we're talking about counting the bouts, and, you know, I'm one of the owners and co-founders of the US Open and Siam fights, and we took that very serious in how we defined a bout and how we talk about, you know, what experiences and some of that, and it all came down to safety. So the cool thing is, for everybody watching, look at all the people here that were actually debating over what's safer for you, you know, and that's really a cool thing, I think, because something good and positive comes out of this. At the end of the day, we all learn something, and, you know, we're changing the way, you know, obviously listening to Johnny, some good points were made about, you know, why they shouldn't be fully counted as a bout. And so if we do have a situation where it's going from, you know, experience to being now moved to a bout without any thought on how much or what the impact is, how much does audience being behind you matter, cheering, screaming, kick his head off, you know, in a point bout, you know, because we hear what the parents do, and they, you know, they don't listen, you know, to not coaching the fighters from the corner and all these things. So we know what goes on there. But safety being first and foremost, for me, I also thought about, in a lot of these events where we did hear that there's a knockout, right, in those 15 cases of, you know, that at the point, you know, is there EMTs? Is there doctors standing by? Is there's, you know, ambulance standby? You know, those things are definitely a big factor for the safety there. So just anybody who's watching knows that at least that's being covered. So if they're in that, but there are other, you know, organizations that are not doing that. You don't see some of those safety factors there. So I would just want you to, you know, for our audience, think about that too, because if you do know that at some of these semi-contact events, there are, you know, risks involved, definitely know what those are. But I do believe personally they need to count. To what degree, I think we're still debating, but we've taken the stance we have, just an extreme safety measure. And I know other people might think otherwise, but that's why I know we've done it. So, you know, thank you guys again for being here. Just really impressed with the contributions today.
Brandon was doing great there until the very end.
That's great.
Brandon, I was like, who's this guy? I like this guy. Whoever he is, he's very balanced. Then at the very end, you just fell right off the mountainside.
Had to jump off the mountain, Johnny. So
Johnny, thank you, Brandon. Johnny, your final thoughts.
How much time you have?
Oh man.
I was gonna do like this.
yeah. Look,
I'm
guys,
gonna start the Academy Award music when you go too long. Okay?
I'm gonna start playing some music. let me say this. I'm actually, like you guys, I'm wide open, going 100 miles an hour. Ultimately, the goal is to grow the sport, right? We've grown the sport. Through the COVID, we worked our butt off. We stayed alive. Everybody else shut down. We were the only one that was moving forward with the sport. We have been fighting for years, and as a result of this resurgence of Muay Thai and kickboxing in this country, I believe with every ounce of me that it has something to do with the semi-contact PMTs and PKBs that now everybody and their grandmother's doing. And I encourage them to do it as long as they're doing it safely, as long as, to Brandon's point, they should have insurance, they should have a medical staff there, they should make sure that they're doing it the right way. A lot of these people are still using these like smokers. They're just they're doing them. They're not taking care of the fighters. People getting hurt at these events. It's not accounted for. There's no suspension process or protocol or anything in place. We have all of that, and then some with our ICAF Fight platform. Let me be clear. The platform is, when you talk about PKB, PMT, it is a platform in itself. Let me be clear. IKFFightPlatform.com is a place where you go and you see fighters' records. You see their full contact records. You see their semi-contact records, point sparring, and all of that comes up to experience. You see if they're suspended for discipline or medical. What that does is help protect the next guy, not to become, so they won't be a liability. So the platform, I believe, is really answering the questions. And you're going to hear some huge announcements that's going to be coming out really soon about how significant the platform has come to the fight community, especially those in the ICAF. And I think with that in mind, they're going to also, other people are going to be encouraged to start using a similar system as we have. So the other part about this, and I think we might be missing, ultimately, we are trying to grow the sport. We want our sport so that fighters can make millions of dollars one day. I think everybody wants that. We want it to be like boxing one day, even like UFC someday. ONE FC has a pretty good handle on it right now, the way they're coming in and the way they're paying a little bit more money. And in fact, if you guys are going to be out there in September, I'll be there too. But the bottom line is what they are doing, I think, is more the idea of raising the sport up to the sports entertainment value that I think ultimately is why we're doing these semi-contact. So the more we can get fighters ready, whatever your process might be different from mine or ours. But if we have these fighters ready for the big stage, when they come, so that one day they can do this for those that want to and pay and survive their families as a result of, support their families as a result of that, then we're all winning. Ultimately, though, we have to raise the sport up. And we do that by what we've done already with the semi-contact concept, whether it's red or blue or black or white. Hey, you know what? There's going to be that in every case. But it is changing the game. It has already changed the game. And recognizing some of those changes, you might like some, you might not like others. But the bottom line is that we have tens of thousands of more people who are now practicing the sport of Muay Thai because of the semi-contact idea and the fact that they can go and participate and showcase their skills in a safe environment. And that is the truth.
Thank you, Johnny. Man, that was concise, and you stopped yourself. I'm very proud of you, Johnny. That was really good.
Preacher,
that was impressive. That was good. Ryan, final thoughts.
Reminds me when the preacher says, we're gonna wrap up. I'm getting done here, and then 2 hours later.
Music starting.
Great points there. Great points there, Johnny. But oh yeah, one thing that sticks out to me in the conversation is, and you are very, very passionate about this idea of start your own mentality. And the problem with that is, in the world we live in now, that it's impossible to operate in a silo. People travel and they cross state lines and they go into different jurisdictions where things are interpreted very differently. And if you're going to create a program, you have to know that it's going to affect other organizations around the country and sometimes around the world. And everybody's idea about safety varies to what we see as a great degree. And the reason why the US Open, we count everything and Arizona counts everything is because, you know, the point system and some of these other make your own programs, what we're seeing and what people are showing us is that there's a real integrity issue with it. And that's really what it boils down to. And we didn't create the issue of the integrity, and we don't, and you know, you didn't necessarily create it, but it's something that just spawned. And we all have an obligation to respond to the reality that these contests, as they're being displayed, ultimately creates a doubt in the integrity of the program. And that's a doubt that other organizations, ours included, aren't willing to take on because it's a risk and a liability. That's why we count everything. Now, if a bout, according to this expert panel here, and I wrote this down, consists of the following, right? An enclosure, you have judges scoring. Just hold on for that. Hold off on that for a second. That's our definition that we have in our written rules. But enclosure, judges scoring, a designated winner, designated times, awards of any kind, belts, medals, whatever they are. There's a matchmaking criteria. There's a prescribed layouts and prescribed personnel required to conduct these contests. When there's clear combat regulations, according to this panel, that is what a bout is. And one thing we didn't talk about,
not this panel, not this one on the panel, right?
Understood. But but again, even if you disagree, sir, if you have the rest of the community or the rest of the country who has doubt about this, and then they bring these concerns to the various directors of these sporting organizations and sanctioning bodies and tournament directors, they have to listen, right? And they have to find ways to solve these kind of problems. And the one thing that we saw in the video, and it's probably present in every single one of these, is the presence of an audience. Now, I don't know of whether the audience is a paid audience or it's free to attend and watch, but that audience X factor, I believe, is a X factor. That creates that intent, right? So you can explain the rules to people, and once they get into the whatever that enclosure is, and people start hooting, hollering, yelling, and screaming, something changes, right? And that's something you can't really control. So like we didn't even get into the fact that an audience being present really kind of morphs this thing into something that you never intended it to be. And my question is,
no, that's not true. I said it's exactly what I intended it to be.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that people don't put. I just want to make sure that I'm a pretty articulate guy, and no one has to put words in my mouth. That it is exactly what I wanted it to be, and now it's
that's
going
why
somewhere
I
else.
get the confessions.
But now it is going somewhere else, and I think that I'm going to be making some announcements really soon about where we're going and how it's going to just help all of our sport that much better. Okay, so just guys, I'm just going to say this.
Can we get the scoop right now? We got an audience.
Give me a few days. Give me a few days, maybe the first of next week. Listen, my point in this, I want to just prove my case. And that I know you guys, you don't have to, everybody doesn't have to agree and have to love Johnny Davis and this idea, but clearly tens of thousands of people again enjoy it. And it's done a lot of great for the sport. Now, we might have to make modifications along the way to be able to talk to the Petes and the others of the world to see if we can reach some kind of happy medium. Right? I'm open for that, because ultimately the people are getting the experience. The people are going out and they're getting the accolades. Now, what do we do next, though? That's why I'm not into the Olympic thing. I am into people eventually making money, right? So that they can make a living if they want to do it. And gyms are now exploding because of this. That's what I'm into. So that's working. No one can deny that. So now let's continue the conversation and the dialogue about what we can do with this problem about counting bouts. Because we're going to continue to do what we're doing because we feel like the value is in calling a winner, etc. Right? And winning an award, whether it's a trophy or a medal or even a semi-contact grand championship belt, which people love. And then what's the next level? Who's going to be the world champion? Is it going to be the guy who got his hands raised with the other guy who had a tie, or the guy who's already felt that feeling? We don't know. We'll find out in a few years.
And maybe in a few weeks.
Do I have time for just one last question by chance?
Go for it, Pete.
I know we've been here quite a while. This is not disrespectful. I'm totally curious. I'm just curious.
That means it's going to be totally disrespectful.
No, it means that I already see his question. I already see his question on the screen.
Yeah, that question. Yeah. My question is, and you're right, you created a huge organization with the whole point portion of the IKF, right? But the IKF World Championships has not grown year after year like other organizations have. This is why I alluded to my opinion on you've created a community within the Muay Thai community, and a solid one. But why is it not, if they're growing the sport, why is not growing your own world championships each year?
Thank you. Thanks for asking that question. That's why we can't make this so short. Thiago.
We're gonna get the scoop today.
Thiago. So guess what?
But
every year I hear about the TBA tournament, and I'm always impressed. I'm like, oh my God. I tell people every year at my tournament, I talk about TBA tournament. I said, I do not want a tournament that size. I don't, because it's too much. For me, I'm talking about for me, it's too much for me and my team and everything else. So I have a different philosophy. My philosophy, it's important for you to hear this. It's important.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm listening.
And what you're getting ready to hear is this huge campaign with us about creating recognizable champions. What we have lost in our sport. Tell me who a world champion is. It's going to take you count 5. It's hard to count 5 of who the world champion is in the sport of Muay Thai or kickboxing today. Back in the day, got to give it to PKA. We knew they were. All of us are old enough for the most part, except Thiago, maybe Ryan. I'm old enough to be able to remember that we knew the champions on ESPN because they were fighting, they were doing things. And there was a time when K1 was strong, and we knew who those champions were.
Mm-hmm.
Today, we don't know who those champions are. So I am telling you right now, and here's a little bit of the scoop, Thiago. We're getting ready to get back to building recognizable champions. Awesome. And in order to, and that is a game change. You wait. When you hear this announcement, you're going to be like, okay, this guy's crazy. But it's crazy in a good way. But the bottom line is that this is what we have to do. And until we can start doing that, our sport is going to linger. Who was it? I think Bob alluded to. Yes, I did a presentation last year at the ABC commission meeting in front of all the big boys. And my whole PowerPoint presentation was about the resurgence of the sport of Muay Thai and kickboxing. And all of them were like, oh my God, I didn't know. They had no clue. Because what happened, everybody's kind of in their own pocket. And I decided that, you know what, I'm going to go to the top echelon of the big boys, and I'm going to let them know, right, that, hey, we're here. We have a great sport, but now we need you, commissioners, to start recognizing us as a legitimate sport, as you do others. That's starting to change the game, guys. They're starting to pay attention. Don't you? I remember a few years back around the COVID, I had this thing, Bring Thailand to You. Pete, you may appreciate this or not. I had this thing with Kru Paul, who's a great from Thailand, very good. And I was promoting her, saying, Bring Thailand to You. Well, ironically, Thailand did come to us. They started coming here because they were seeing all of the interest. I know you've been bringing people for years, Pete. I'm not no disrespect to that. But when the big boys, the world champions and all that started coming, they started coming here and and the seminars were selling out. There's a reason for that. Because now we have so many more thousands of participants in this that can sell out those things, because a lot of gyms were struggling before. But now they have people who are more acceptable to saying, wow, you know what? I think I want to try that, because I'm not going to go in there and get killed. Unlike what Bob was saying, that Muay Thai is designed to, to break you, kill you, and that's the mentality, and that's what kept people out of it. But now they feel like we have a safer format, to participate in. And so therefore, I think most gyms are doing well. Most of the people I know who are doing PMTs and PKBs are doing very, very well financially, just from students.
I think there's a lot to attribute to the growth of Muay Thai. I'm sure everybody's participated a little bit,
Sure.
and it is growing. It is being recognized everywhere, in the Olympics, outside the Olympics, and it's really growing. The community, is still deferring their opinions on how, and it's gonna be a very difficult process to unify rules. I think this is the only sport that I can think of that the rules vary. You don't play volleyball different in Iowa than you do in Arizona. You don't play basketball different than you do in Brazil, than you do in, it's this is the only sport. And that's because I think we're still relatively small compared to the majors, right? Basketball or baseball or things like that. There aren't millions of participants, but we're getting there. And as we do, this effort that we started today needs to happen more often. We need to start kind of bending a little bit so that we can come together slowly but surely and find a unified rule set that works for everybody so that we can all succeed, right? And
Hey,
so,
Thiago,
yes, sir.
Jonathan Poole, I don't know who that is asking a question on the chat. Do you see that question?
Yeah, I see. He said, did you vote to remove Muay Thai in the rule set for ABC Commission rules set for the states?
Where did that come from?
Okay, I don't know. I don't know. I think we're past that at this point.
Okay.
But I think to wrap this up, I think these conversations need to be had more often. And little by little, I think we can kind of sway each other to come closer and make a rule set that works for everybody. We understand that we all deeply care for this sport. And that's why we're all here, right? We're all very passionate about how we think it goes. We all agree that safety is a priority. How we see that safety is where we differ. But understanding each other is how we're going to come together. And so, again, I commend everybody for participating. Bob had to go. He said, sorry, he had to go. He had a class to teach. And so, but I want to thank, maybe this is the first of many. I'm always willing to sit on a panel myself and anybody else's podcast and discuss this. I have my own voiced opinions. I kind of kept them a little quiet today. There's some obvious bias, but I try to keep that quiet because I wanted you to be heard, Johnny. And I appreciate you taking part in this conversation and this dialogue. And hopefully we hear from you guys again soon. I'm looking forward to your big announcement. And we will join you guys next week, same time. We're going to be doing every Tuesday at 7 p.m. MST time. Today we started early because we wanted, we knew this was going to be a banger. So we started a little bit early, and this was a great podcast. I will be listening in myself. Thank you, guys. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, guys.
And, we'll see you around. See you in the circuit.
Appreciate it, guys. Take care.
See you guys.
Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.